The secret strategies of Alexander the Great. Imagine a time, long, long ago, when a young man named Alexander walked the earth. He wasn't just any man. He was like a superhero, leading armies bigger than you can imagine. People say he was the greatest general ever, winning every single battle. But how did he do it? What were his secret powers? His clever tricks that let him conquer the whole world? Our story begins in a dusty, hot land far away. The sun beat down like a hammer. Alexander was just a boy, but he was already smart. His teacher was a very famous thinker named Aristotle. Aristotle taught Alexander many things, about stars, about animals, about how people think. But the most important lessons were about war. Alexander listened carefully, his eyes wide and bright. He learned not just how to fight, but how to think like a winner. One day, a huge, wild horse came to the kingdom. No one could tame it. The horse was black as night, with muscles that rippled like waves. It snorted fire from its nose and kicked with its strong leg. Everyone was scared. They said, "This horse is too wild. No one can ride it." But young Alexander was not scared. He watched the horse closely. He saw something others missed. The horse was scared of its own shadow. Alexander walked slowly, softly, towards the giant horse. He spoke in a gentle voice. He turned the horse so it wouldn't see its shadow. He patted its neck. And then, amazingly, Alexander climbed onto its back. The horse, named Bucephalus, became his best friend. This wasn't just a story about a horse. It taught Alexander a big lesson: look closely, find the hidden fear, and be kind. This was one of his first secret strategies. Years passed. Alexander grew into a strong, brave man. His father, King Philip, was also a great soldier. Philip taught Alexander how to march armies, how to use spears and shields. But Alexander wanted to do more. He wanted to do things no one had ever done. He dreamed of a world where he was in charge. His eyes always looked to the horizon, to places unknown. Then, sadly, his father died. Alexander became king. He was only 20 years old, just a young man. But he had a fire in his belly. He gathered his army, brave men who trusted him. He told them, "We will go on a grand adventure. We will cross the seas. We will make history." His men cheered. They believed in him. This belief was another one of Alexander's secret weapons. He made his soldiers feel like heroes. His first big challenge was against the mighty Persian Empire. The Persians were huge, rich, and thought they were the best. They had an army that stretched for miles, like a moving city. Their king was Darius, a powerful man with a golden crown. Alexander's army was much smaller. Many people thought Alexander was crazy. "You can't beat Persia," they said. "Their army is too big." But Alexander had a plan. He always had a plan. He didn't just rush into battle. He thought about it, like a chess master moving pieces. He studied the land. He looked at the enemy. He used his eyes, just like with Bucephalus. He knew that even a huge army could have a weak spot. The first big fight was at a place called the Granicus River. The Persian army waited on the other side of the river. The river itself was a problem. It was hard to cross, with slippery rocks and deep water. The Persians thought Alexander would wait until morning. They thought he would be too scared to attack right away. They were wrong. Alexander did something totally unexpected. He attacked at dusk, when the sun was going down. The light was tricky. It made things hard to see. He led his cavalry, his horse soldiers, right into the river. "Follow me," he roared. His voice echoed across the water. His men plunged in, shields up, swords ready. The Persians were surprised. They didn't expect such a bold move. They were caught off guard. This was a key secret: speed and surprise. Alexander moved faster than anyone thought possible. He didn't just win, he shattered the Persian line. He fought bravely, right in the front, like any of his soldiers. He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. This made his men love him even more. They would do anything for their king. This bond with his men was a very big secret to his success. After Granicus, Alexander kept moving. He moved like a storm, sweeping across the land. He freed Greek cities that the Persians had taken over. He showed everyone that he was not just a warrior, but also a liberator. People started to believe in him. They saw him as a hero, not just a conqueror. This was smart. He made friends, not just enemies. Next came the Battle of Issus. King Darius himself was there, with an even bigger army. Darius had thousands of soldiers, chariots, and archers. The battlefield was a narrow strip of land between mountains and the sea. Darius thought this narrow space would help him, because Alexander's smaller army couldn't move around much. He thought it would be like a funnel, trapping Alexander. But Alexander saw it differently. He saw the narrow space as his advantage. He knew that a huge army could not use all its soldiers at once in a small area. Many of Darius's soldiers would just stand there, unable to fight. Alexander put his best fighters, his Macedonian phalanx, in the middle. These men had long, long spears, like porcupine quills. They were a solid wall of iron. Alexander then did his famous hammer and anvil trick. He led his best horse soldiers, his companions, on the right side. He charged at a weak point in Darius's army, like a hammer hitting a nail. While his phalanx held the middle like an anvil, Alexander's horsemen smashed through the Persian left wing. They broke it completely. Then, Alexander turned his horsemen and rode behind Darius's main army. Imagine this, a huge army, fighting bravely in front, suddenly has enemies attacking from behind. It was pure chaos. Darius, seeing his army crumbling and Alexander's men getting closer, panicked. He jumped into his chariot and sped away, leaving his army behind. This was another huge win for Alexander. He didn't just beat the enemy, he broke their spirit. He showed them that their king was a coward. Alexander didn't stop there. He marched south, to the land of Phoenicia, where famous cities like Tyre were. Tyre was a city on an island, like a fortress floating in the sea. It had huge walls, taller than any building. It seemed impossible to capture. The people of Tyre laughed at Alexander. "You can't get us," they shouted from their walls. "We are safe." But Alexander was very stubborn. He looked at the sea, and he looked at the island. He thought, if I can't reach the island, I will build a bridge to it. And that's what he did. His engineers and soldiers started building a huge causeway, a land bridge, right across the water. It was a massive project, taking many months. The Tyrians threw rocks and shot arrows. They even sent fire ships. But Alexander kept pushing. His men worked day and night. They built huge siege towers, taller than the walls of Tyre, and put them on boats. They brought special machines that could smash walls. Finally, after 7 long months, Alexander's army broke through the walls. Tyre fell. This showed another secret: never give up. Even when things look impossible, keep trying. Build a path where there is none. After Tyre, Alexander went to Egypt. The Egyptians hated the Persians who ruled them. When Alexander arrived, they welcomed him like a hero, like a god. They crowned him pharaoh, their king. Alexander was smart. He didn't just conquer, he understood the people he conquered. He respected their gods and their ways. He built a new city there, named after himself, Alexandria. This city became a famous center for learning and trade, a place where people from all over the world came together. Building cities was another one of Alexander's clever moves. It wasn't just about fighting. It was about creating something new, something lasting. It showed he was a builder, not just a destroyer. He wanted to mix Greek ideas with the ideas of the East. This was a very big, long-term plan. He was thinking years ahead, not just about the next battle. Then came the biggest battle of all, Gaugamela. This was the final showdown with King Darius. Darius had gathered an army even bigger than before. Some stories say he had 1,000,000 soldiers. He had war chariots with scythes, sharp blades on their wheels, to cut down soldiers. He had elephants, like giant tanks. Darius chose a huge, flat plain for the battle. He made sure the ground was smooth so his chariots could charge easily. He thought, on this wide plain, my numbers will crush Alexander. But Alexander, again, had a different idea. He knew Darius's plan. He knew Darius expected a head-on fight. So Alexander did something unexpected again. He marched his army in a strange, crooked line, not straight. He moved them to the right, far to the right, almost off the battlefield. Darius watched, confused. What is he doing? He wondered. Darius then made a mistake. He sent his cavalry, his best horsemen, to stop Alexander from moving off the field. This opened up a gap in Darius's own battle line, like a door left ajar. Alexander saw it. He waited for the perfect moment. Then, with a mighty roar, he turned his army. His best soldiers, the companions, charged straight into that gap, right at Darius himself. It was a brilliant move. It was like magic. Darius was in the middle of his huge army, thinking he was safe. But Alexander went for the head, not the body. He went straight for the king. The battle was long and fierce. The air was filled with the clash of swords and the shouts of men. Alexander fought like a lion. His men, inspired by him, fought with incredible bravery. Darius, once again, saw Alexander's shining armor getting closer and closer. He saw his own army breaking. He panicked and ran away, for the last time. Gaugamela was the biggest victory. It proved that Alexander was truly a master of war. He didn't just win with strength. He won with his brain. He outsmarted his enemies. This was his most powerful secret strategy, thinking several steps ahead, like in a game of chess. After Gaugamela, the Persian Empire was truly broken. Alexander entered Babylon, a magnificent city with huge walls and beautiful gardens. He was welcomed as a liberator. He showed respect to the people and their gods. He let them keep their traditions. He sat on Darius's throne. He was now the king of the world's biggest empire. But Alexander didn't stop. He pushed his men further and further, into lands no Greek had ever seen. He went to the far eastern lands, into what is now Afghanistan and India. His men were tired. They had marched for years. They missed their homes. They wanted to go back. In India, Alexander faced new challenges. He met King Porus, a mighty ruler with huge war elephants. The Battle of the Hydaspes River was another tough fight. The river was swollen and fast. Porus waited on the other side, ready for Alexander. Alexander used another clever trick. He marched his army up and down the river for many days, making fires, pretending he would cross in different places. This confused Porus. He didn't know where Alexander would attack. Then, one dark and stormy night, Alexander took a small part of his army far upstream, where Porus didn't expect him. He crossed the river in the middle of the storm, hidden by the rain and thunder. He caught Porus by surprise. Even with the powerful elephants, Alexander's army fought bravely. His men had learned how to fight elephants. They jabbed them with spears, making them angry and turn on their own side. Alexander won, but it was a very hard victory. He was so impressed with Porus's bravery that he let Porus keep his kingdom and even gave him more land. This showed another side of Alexander. He respected brave enemies. But the men had had enough. They had been fighting for 10 years. They had marched thousands of miles. They were exhausted. They told Alexander, "We can't go any further. We want to go home." Alexander was angry at first. He wanted to go further, to the very end of the world. But he also loved his men. He knew he couldn't force them. So, Alexander finally agreed to turn back. The journey back was even harder than the journey there. They crossed vast, hot deserts where many men died of thirst and hunger. Alexander shared their hardships. He walked with them, ate what they ate, and drank what they drank. One story tells that when his men found a small helmet full of water in the desert, they brought it to Alexander. He looked at it, then poured it onto the sand. "If I drink, and my men are thirsty, I am no king," he said. This act of leadership, sharing in their suffering, was another of his powerful secrets. It made his men trust him completely. Alexander returned to Babylon. He had conquered the largest empire the world had ever seen. He was a hero, a legend. He started planning new things, like sailing around the whole world. But his body was tired. He had fought many battles, faced many dangers, and lived a very hard life. One day, he got sick. He grew weaker and weaker. His generals gathered around his bed, sad and worried. They asked him, "Who will rule your empire after you, great king?" Alexander looked at them with tired eyes. He whispered his last words, "To the strongest." Then, he closed his eyes forever. He was only 32 years old. Alexander the Great died, but his story lived on. His empire was huge, so huge that his generals fought over it. It split into many parts. But his legacy, his impact, was enormous. He spread Greek culture and ideas across the world. He built cities that lasted for centuries. He showed that with courage, smart plans, and belief in yourself and your team, you can achieve amazing things. So, what were Alexander's secret strategies? They weren't just about swords and spears. They were about, 1. Observing closely, like seeing the horse's fear of its shadow. Looking for the enemy's weak spot. 2. Speed and surprise, attacking when least expected, moving faster than anyone thought possible. 3. Bold leadership, leading from the front, showing no fear, inspiring his men to fight like lions. 4. Flexibility, changing plans on the fly, not being stuck in one way of thinking. 5. Understanding people, respecting different cultures, making friends, not just enemies. 6. Patience and persistence, building a causeway to an island city. Never giving up. 7. Outsmarting the enemy, the hammer and anvil trick, going for the king instead of the whole army. 8. Sharing hardship, being with his men through thick and thin, building trust. 9. Thinking ahead, not just winning the battle, but building cities and planning for the future. These were the true secrets of Alexander the Great. He was more than a soldier. He was a genius, a visionary, a legend whose story still inspires us today. He proved that the greatest power isn't just in the biggest army, but in the sharpest mind and the bravest heart. He truly was the king of the world, and his secrets are still whispered through time.